Dober dan. Hvala lepa, da ste prišli na tiskovno konferenco z umetnico Patricia Piccinini. I pronounce both your names in Italian and in English for Australian. Ki se prvikrat predstavlja pri nas, skratka v tem okolju in obenem je to tudi njena edina letošnja samostojna, celovita prireditev v Evropi in na svetu, na kar smo seveda dokaj veseli. In je potem, ko so njena dela prihajala z ladjo iz Slovenije, zdaj že dobršen del postavljen na KIBLA portalu. Hello, Patricia. Welcome. And da nadaljujem, obenem, pa kar je zanimivo pri tej nekaj celostni pregledni razstavi, da povezuje poleg recimo različnih področij delovanja, ki so tako lahko socialna, sociološka, tudi znanstvena, raziskovalna in tudi recimo deloma realno oziroma podjetniška, saj z svojim zadnjim delom Graham je naredila v bistvu po znanstvenih raziskavah človeka, kakšen bi moral biti človek, ki da preživi prometno nesrečo. No, to si lahko tudi pogledate na YouTube oziroma na internetu, poleg pa tudi druge dokumentacije. Obenem v njeni razstavi boste lahko videli na KIBLA portalu poleg skulptur, po katerih je znana tudi recimo vso ostalo njeno delo, pomeni od slik, risb, inštalacij in seveda audio, video produkcij z pač posamičnimi projekcijami. So Patricia, as we are quite close to the opening of your show in Maribor this Thursday, and I just somehow described all different fields of your activities that's included in the consciousness exhibition. I would like to know just what is your approach in making, let's say, all these different artworks from sculptures, installations, audiovisual production or films, videos, drawings and paintings.
So you'd like to know why I made that?
And how is your approach, where's your ascent to this? Because I think they quite look different in a way of all the also aesthetics and also as the upgrade.
Okay, that's a good question. So I do use a variety of media. And the reason is because I'm a conceptual artist, even though I make figurative works. All the work germinates, it comes from ideas. So my job is to read a lot, think a lot, be in the community, talk to people, almost be a reflection of what is going on in our society, and to make works about the ethical, mostly ethical, often emotional implications of the changes that are happening around us. Now, I don't really have solutions to a lot of these propositions that I give to people, I make to people. I'm not the sort of artist that's very didactic and says, I'm on the outside so I can see what the best, what the real or the true or the authentic idea is. I talk with people about how things are changing around us. And one of the things that I'm really interested in, and is the focus of almost all the work, is how our definition of what is natural and what is artificial is really changing. So it used to be that it was a dichotomous thing. You know, this is natural, it's organic, it grows. This is artificial, it's mechanical, it's man-made. And now we understand that it's not a duality. It's actually a continuum. And that's interesting. It's interesting, in fact, that maybe it doesn't matter if something is completely natural. Maybe that's liberating. Maybe, and I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm wondering what the place for the artificial is in our lives. And one of the things where the artificial is really coming into our lives is through medicine and medical innovation, and how we change nature around us, and how we treat other animals. And in some way, you could say that my work is actually post-human, in that it doesn't put the human at the center of everything. I'm interested in the rights of other creatures that we share the planet. I'm interested in the idea that maybe we are just another animal. We know that, but we know that scientifically. We know that because Darwin said it 150 years ago. But now we need to understand. We need to come to conclusions about how to act, and part of that is we need to understand that, yeah, we may just be another animal, that our intelligence is one kind of intelligence, and also that the boundaries between things are not as strong as they used to be for us. And these are the important ideas that motivate all my work. And so when you say to me, why does it look so different? Why do you have a sculpture and why do you have a video? Why do you have different kinds of looking sculptures? It's because they are the best vehicle for the idea. And so, yeah, it's almost not an aesthetic. It's the work is all about a set of ideas. And I actually think that most everyday people connect to these ideas very, very well and in quite a sophisticated manner. Like everyday people get it and they connect with the work. And that's intentional. Now, I try and employ empathy in the work. I try and make the work quite emotional. It's not purely rational. It's not just about science. It's about all kinds of things that feed our understanding of and our engagement with the artwork.
Thank you very much. It's also what I'm interested in the combination in your work you mentioned into science or something, let's say, physical and metaphysical, like art and science, and also when you were talking about what is artificial, what is natural. I also have always the consideration when someone says this is artificial, but it was produced by somebody who is natural. So I think also the people's production is natural because it's made from, let's say, definite elements that are in the system of Mendeleev. Yeah? And then also by stating all of these different art pieces and activities, and maybe just one of your recent work like Graham, which is like how would a person like to survive a car accident. So just here on this point, where is this border that you go from the, let's say, scientific or physical issues to the metaphysical and artistic? And yes, I just fully support you. Just if somebody said, say one word for Patricia's work, I would say empathy. So I think that's the basic issue. So yeah, science, art, and the
Well, it's very interesting you say that, Peter, because during the Renaissance there was no distinction between science and art. Leonardo's time, no distinction at all. Science and art were bonded together. And now there's a very strong definition of, or perhaps it's actually breaking down, I would argue. But in the recent past, we have this thing called science over here and this thing called art over there. But I think that definition is becoming more and more porous, you know, like skin. It's sort of things can go through it. Now, I don't make work just about science. Like, I'm not an apologist, which means somebody that's talking just about science and wants to say that science is the savior or the solution or even perhaps even the culprit, the problem with society. You know, I don't make work that illustrates notions to do with science. I just take science as a given. Science is just part of everyday life now. It just is. And I don't make a comment on it saying this is wrong or right, but I am very interested in how science changes the way we see ourselves and the people around us and machines and other animals, and the sort of ethical implications of how the science affects us. So in the work, I often refer to technologies like cloning, xenotransplantation, which is growing human organs in other species, things like trans-species blending organisms, which we do already. I refer to them, but I don't say they're intrinsically bad, because they are just part of our environment. We haven't the power or the control to change those technologies, but we do have the capacity to discuss how they should be used. You know, I mean, and who has access to them, and how they change how we see ourselves. Like, for example, in the show, there's a lot of works about how innovation in medical technology has made it possible for us to imagine a body that is so flexible, so changeable, that we can imagine a body being made up of not just organic material, but actually inorganic material, objects. And that is a really big thing. You know, this is happening in our lifetime, and I reflect this in the work. And I'm asking, what does it mean to imagine a body that's not made up of life which is already living on this planet? What does it mean? What does it mean to us? How does that change how we relate to each other and to our creations? And that's another thing. So I'm very interested in duty of care, which means the responsibility we have towards nature that we change. Like, if we create a new life form, why should we do it? And what is our responsibility towards it? And they are very, very important questions to me personally, and that's why I deal with them in my practice.
Thank you very much. Prashanya, any questions?
What do you think about artificial intelligence, and do you think that maybe in the future, I hope not, but maybe in the future, your sculptures could be used as robots at home?
Well, that's a very interesting point you've raised, Natasha, because it's a very timely one. The whole world is interested in artificial intelligence, and In fact, people like Stephen Jay Gould, a very prominent scientist, saying, hey, look, we're getting to a point where machines are going to be autonomous and be able to learn by themselves, and then they'll take off, and then we won't have control over them. And so we, as a species, as a community, we have to act now, in the same way that we have to act when we deal with issues to do with the environment. So yes, it's very, very, very important that we deal with that issue. And I do refer to that in my work in the show. One of the things about environmentalists and scientists, like, is that when they talk to us about impending disaster and impending doom, it's very, very, very frightening and terrifying, and kind of freezes us. Like whenever I read these books, and I do it a lot, about the environment, I'm absolutely frozen in fear. And that is a bad way to be, because you can't act. There's no space to actually do anything. And part of the change has to come with how we understand things, how we understand what nature is. And one of the things that we may need to do is understand that the nature that we have a concept about, that nature is gone. And we have to come up with a new way of understanding nature. I mean, I don't know what that new way is, but I'm interested in talking about it. And that's what I try and do with my work. And I can, when we stand in front of the work, I'll be able to tell you how that happens. Yeah, artificial intelligence. There is one of the work in the show, Consciousness. I have made a work where you see these machines on the floor, and they are kind of like baby machines, and they give the idea to the viewer that this machine is capable of growth. And that's interesting, that a machine is capable of growth. We don't really think that machines can grow. They just act, they just do things, they're robots. But now we have a sense that they can grow, like artificial intelligence. And once you have this notion that a machine can grow, then, and it's not like, the way I present it to the viewer, it's not absolutely terrifying, because they're beautiful things. They have an element of cuteness almost. Like they look like, in this example, they look a little bit like tadpoles, which are what frogs, the baby frogs are tadpoles. So they will grow into, say, motorcycles that will be on the road. And so this idea is presented in a kind of non-threatening way, but it still has enough force for it to enter our way of seeing technology. And I think that is useful. I think that's a good way to go forward, to internalize this idea that machines can grow, but not be absolutely terrified by it. And then you can act. Because otherwise, you can't act if you're frightened. And also, you can't overthrow a system. You can't say, oh, artificial intelligence is a big problem, let's get rid of computers, let's all go back to nature and become cave people. That's never going to happen. You can't have that kind of revolution. But you can be inside the system and find ways to go forward that are beneficial to us and other animals. And that is what I'm interested in. And I think that's why people relate to my work, because they can see the positive nature of the work. I think my work is incredibly optimistic. It really is optimistic. That's a long answer, isn't it? No, sorry.
Thank you.
I have a lot of questions. We will wait.
Še kakšno vprašanje?
Maybe just one. Okay. because what you said about your creatures and about nature, I think that, and about our relationship towards nature, that we don't actually know what nature is. We don't know how animals look like. We know how the steak look like, but how the animal look like, we don't know. So we can't sympathize with these animals. And with your works, I can sympathize. In your work, I see small kitten. I see puppets. I see something that's natural, but actually it's not natural. So it's something that I think younger people, it's easier for them to connect with your work, because it's something they see in the internet, in all those games, and they think that's nature, but it's not. So I think it's a little bit bizarre what I'm telling, but you are
yeah, it's a very interesting point you brought up.
Yeah, you're making nature closer to people, but actually that's what you do. It's not natural.
Yes.
It's artificial.
Yeah. Yes. So is this what you're saying? You're saying that young people live in this culture of video games and online communities and chat rooms and sort of social media, and so they're disconnected from what we would imagine to be real nature, like the bush, the forest. They're disconnected to that, and they live in a virtual environment, digital environment. And so when they come to my exhibition, they see these strange creatures, and they're not frightened by them in the same way that maybe an older person might be. An older person might go, oh, that's like disgusting or horrible. And they're not. Young people aren't, because they do Pokemon, they do all that stuff, and these ideas are kind of familiar to them. Yeah, and it's interesting that I'm talking about nature, but it's completely artificial. It's sculpture. Yeah, it is. Yes, there is a lot of strange complexities there. It's a very interesting mechanism. And I'm aware of that. I'm very aware of that. And one of the things that I'm interested in is a young audience. Like, I am very interested in young people. And young people do connect to my work, as you say. Often an experience that came to me once recently, a mother and her child came to one of my works, and the mother was going, oh, maybe we should keep going. This is too much. We should keep going. And the young child said, Mummy, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. So the adult was horrified, but the child was intrigued. Now, there's a lot of, it's a complex thing. Firstly, children don't have the implicit bias. Implicit bias is something that we carry around with us, that says this is good, this is bad. For example, black people are lazy and violent. This is an implicit bias, for example. Children don't have those biases. They're too young to have them. They haven't developed. So they're much more open to the kind of work that I make. So that's one thing that's happening. And the second thing that's happening is that they are more disconnected from nature. Like, maybe your father's generation grew up around cows and chickens, whereas these children don't know what a cow and a chicken is, but they eat it every day. So there's a lot going on. But I think in the end, when children, and I think children are a very important audience, but it's not I don't dumb the work down for children. Children are, I like young people seeing my work because they are the people that will inherit what we've done to the earth. They will have to deal with what we are doing now to the earth. And so, yeah, they're important. And so I don't discount those audiences. I'm very aware of them. Although I don't think I make work for children. It's not for children. But they still can connect to it. Yes, yeah. It is a very strange dynamic that happens with children. It's very unusual. Yeah.
I saw one video on internet with you and the children, and when you were explaining them your work and you asked them if they know what transplantation means, and they all hang up their hands and they were talking to you, they were caressing your artwork, and I was thinking, what do your children think about your art? Isn't it a little bit scary? And when I saw those children, I just started thinking about that I asked you before. Children can very much easier connect with your work than the adults. Because when I was explaining my students about you and about your exhibition, I confess, I told them, just check before you go to the exhibition, check a little bit on the internet, so that you will be prepared what will you see there, so that you won't be afraid. But I'm afraid, actually, not anymore. Now, when I met you, I know that you're very gentle, very nice woman, and what I see in your work is this gentleness.
Yes, that's very true. So before people know me and meet me, they think I'm some, I don't know, some punk or some crazy woman, or, you know, with dyed hair and piercings or whatever. They think I'm going to be aggressive and, you know, and not have a dress or something. They really think I'm going to be like that, and I want to shock people, but I don't want to shock people. That is the last thing I want to do. So I don't make work to shock at all. I really don't. Yeah.
I think this is good art, because when you are not shocked, but when you are moved and you want to know more, but you don't know why do I want to know more about these bizarre things, this is good art. This is something that I think it's important for now, this time, and it's important for the future.
Yeah.
That this kind of art will stay and will make some kind of statement in the history.
Well, you know, that's very pleasing for me to hear, because when I sit down to make a work, what I do is I imagine it and I draw it, and then I decide how I'm going to make it. Will it be a video or a sculpture or a drawing? And then I just go down the process of making this work. But I'm aware that people will find it grotesque. I know that they will think, oh, it's a little bit ugly. And that is because our brains are hardwired to reject something that's different. And we have to overcome that. And so often the initial response to my work is like, oh, that's gross. That's disgusting. You know, that is what often happens. But then what happens is people look at it a little bit longer and they become intrigued. They look at it and think, oh, something is happening here. And my emotions are a little bit involved. And I actually feel something for this individual. And I feel something for their often it's vulnerability. It's vulnerability. It's not pity. It's more, I can empathize with how vulnerable this creature is. And so what happens is you have the push away, and then you have the pull in. So push away disgust, pull in empathy. And that is a situation that doesn't actually happen very often in life. Usually it's just, oh, I don't want to know that. It's too much. These are refugees, don't want to know about it. Or empathy. Oh, that's so cute. I really want that handbag. I want those new shoes. I really like that. So you either have those. You don't often have a situation where you have both together. And I hope that in my work that there is both together. Because once you have both together, then there is a space in the viewer where you think, well, what do I think? Do I hate this or do I like this? Am I interested in this or is it not important? And then the viewer then actively has to put some yes, starts to think, yeah, I get it, or yeah, I do get this. It is meaningful. Yeah.
Okay, just last reminding. I saw your exhibition on the Venice Biennale 2003, and it was too soon for me. It was too bizarre. I didn't understand it. So.
Yeah, I understand that. Look, that was 14 years ago, and now, and so a lot of that work was about growing animals for replacement parts, so growing an organ in another animal. And now we're almost doing it. Now it's almost going to happen. But 14 years ago, it was just an idea. It was science fiction. It's like, oh. But now it's actually imminent. And also, what's happening now, things like CRISPR. Have you heard of CRISPR? CRISPR is a gene editing technology that's come out of California, actually the Bay Area, near San Francisco. It's an incredibly revolutionary gene editing technology. Now, CRISPR is it's really, really powerful, and it's really cheap. Like, you can change genetic material. So it's been said that in about a decade, all births will be mediated by this technology. So every single birth will have some aspect of gene editing happening. So, the things happen in our world in an incredibly fast pace, and like the world of 13, 14 years ago is really different from this world. And yeah, maybe now you're in the world where we've made artificial meat to eat. So the first artificial piece of meat cost $230,000. Now an artificial meat, not from an animal, costs $11. 11. So this is a big change. And so we live in a world where, these enormous changes are happening. And yeah, maybe my work now is more conceivable than it was 13, 14 years ago, which is a lifetime ago. I didn't have a mobile phone then. I didn't have one. I didn't have a laptop. It's just another world. Yeah.
Will mankind be capable to keep a nature to survive life? Mankind will can keep alive
I don't think, will it be destroyed? We're going to keep it? I don't think it's either. I think that we have to work hard to, as a community, redefine what we understand to be natural. And we have to work within that. I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I feel that we will do it, and we are doing it, and I'm doing it with my work. And then people who come to my show, they will do it with their teaching, with their art making, with their cooking, with their political activity, with their garden making, whatever they do in life. You know, I think people are, very capable, and I want to do something. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hvala lepa. Naj vas še samo spomnim, razstava Zavest se odpira v četrtek 29. junija ob 17. na KIBLA portalu. V petek 30. junija je ob 17. uri oziroma 5. popoldan vodstvo z umetnico po razstavi. V soboto 1. julija pa ob 19. še pogovor z njo oziroma tudi njeno predavanje oziroma predstavitev malo bolj širšega delovanja. Vas vabim skratka na dogodke, razstava bo odprta do 14. oktobra in jasno, no, pripeljite tudi otroke, svoje, druge, čim več in lep dan še naprej.